Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee with Changemakers. I'm Robin.
And I'm Yoshi. On the Coffee with Changemakers podcast, we explore the stories of changemakers taking on some of today's biggest social and environmental challenges.
Every episode, we host an intimate conversation on social impact and leadership, where we listen, learn, and connect over a cup of coffee with inspiring guests from all over the world.
So before we jump into today's episode, we have a quick ask. If you enjoy our conversations, it would mean the world to us if you subscribe, rate, and perhaps even tell a friend about the show. Your support helps us bring even more inspiring guests onto future episodes.
So, here's today's coffee chat. Enjoy. Today, we'll be speaking with Anna Kreshchenko, the founder and CEO of Flora, a social impact startup focusing on improving women's health, such as through period tracking, fertility, and motherhood. Now, I met Anna, a few years ago when she presented at an SDGs pitch event that my organization put together. And I remember finding her story remarkable for several reasons. There are so many layers of intrigue in her personal and professional journey. So firstly, Anna was a karate champion competing at the international level and representing her country. Secondly, she made a big leap of faith and moved from Ukraine to Japan, a land far away from home, many years ago. And thirdly, she built a tech-driven social startup that focuses on improving women's health and is making a real impact today. Now, when we first decided to launch this podcast, Anna was one of the first people that came to mind, and I knew we would have to have her on as a guest. So I'm super excited to dive straight into it and welcome our guest. Hello, Anna. How are you doing today?
Hi, doing awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for this introduction. Yeah, I'm super excited today as well.
Awesome. No, we're super excited as well. And we've already checked in, but we all have a cup of coffee or tea, right? We're all good?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, let's all kanpai. Let's all have a quick cheers and then enjoy the conversation.
Kanpai.
Kanpai.
How do you say kanpai in Ukraine?
You can say budmo.
Budmo.
Yeah, but we don't say it with water though.
Okay.
but it's okay, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Nice.
Brilliant. So, I mean, I've heard your story before, but I want to just start at the very beginning because, as I said, I find it genuinely fascinating. And I believe you grew up in Ukraine and you moved over to Japan. But just to give a sense to our listeners of your story, how did your journey from Ukraine to Japan begin? And how did your story with Flora begin as well?
Yes, so it might get a little bit long. As you mentioned, I used to do karate and I was doing it professionally. I was in the national team since I was 14, and I was interested in martial arts. And it just starts. You just go into dojo because your parents brought you to dojo, but then you kind of become a more conscious human being, and then you're like, I'm doing karate. Karate is not just kicks and not just punches. There's some story, there's some history and background, and I got interested in that. And that's how I thought that it'd be cool to try to study Japanese. And I always also I was a huge fan of the Japanese karate team. There were some athletes that I was a huge fan. If you watched Tokyo Olympics 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? There was a female athlete. Her name is Shimizu Kiyo, and she placed second. And it was like my role model. And I thought that I want to train together with this person in the same dojo. And so I got this idea of going to Japan to study and to train at the same time. And at that time, I was in my Ukrainian university, and I applied for a scholarship. I went to the, to the embassy. I passed some exams, and they took me as an international student. And then I came to Japan. It was a program for 5 years. For 1 year, I studied in Osaka University, and I didn't really study. I was going to dojo every day because dojo was in Osaka. I was like, yes, I'm going to Osaka finally. Seriously, my dream came true, and I have photo, and we were training together in the dojo.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I got into Kyoto University, into Faculty of Law. And around that time, so my dream, another dream of mine, was participating at the Olympics. But to get into Olympics for karate, there were like a really strict rules. You had to get enough points to get into top 10, because only top 10 athletes could participate. And around 2018, it was like, it looks like I don't have enough points. Probably I'm not getting it. And I thought, since I'm not going into Olympics, I don't want to do that. And I just quit. And I started doing just random stuff, like volunteering or just participating in some design contests, business contests, etc. So that's how I discovered Hal's Prize. And I participated in Hal's Prize, and I thought that business contest is something, it's interesting, it's creative. You come up with some ideas, and then you also get to apply them. And you get to get people together and to come up with ways of how to, change the world, or how to help people, how to actually do it in practice. And I thought that it was really, really super cool, and I liked it. And then I got an opportunity. I'm sorry, it's getting long.
No, please. I'm like hanging on to every word, so please continue.
Yeah. And then I got an opportunity to go to Silicon Valley through my university. Wow. For around 2 weeks. We went to Washington, D.C., and we went to Silicon Valley. We visited Google, and we went to Microsoft, and I just met awesome people. And I think my biggest takeaway was just people. I mean, entrepreneurs and people who wanted to do their own things. They were just so different from people who I had met before in my life. And I thought that I want to be surrounded by this kind of people. And I also want to try and do my own thing. And I came back. It was my second year as a university student, and I applied to the social incubator. It's right near university. Around that time, my cousin, she had some pregnancy complications, and that resulted in the death of her second child. And it was like a big shocking event for my family. And I thought that if I want to do a startup, I want to do something that will motivate me to like continue to solve that problem and to continue doing it every day. And I thought that FemTech, like female and technology part of health tech, is interesting. And that's how it all started. And it was 3 years ago. In 2020, December, I officially started company, but I was in the incubator for like half a year or maybe a year before that. So all in all, 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so fascinating. There's so much to unpack there. But
Exactly.
I'm just curious, like when you went to Silicon Valley and you went to Google and you met all these entrepreneurs, what was so, what's the word, inspiring about those meetings? What did you see in those people that were different from your everyday surroundings?
Oh, that's a really hard question. But it's like all of them are so passionate about what they're doing, Like they talk about it all the time. And people don't talk about jobs like that. Like they were talking about what they're doing, like it's like their life thing. And not only that, there were also people who had like really broad interests and were just like fascinating people that have tried this, maybe failed there, maybe succeeded there, and then for some reason also could, I don't know, play the piano, play violin, be sophisticated about, I don't know, some cars or something. Like it was just, all the backgrounds were so different. There was a lot of passion and a lot of enthusiasm, and everybody was so ambitious. And I don't know, it's really inspiring when you're surrounded by people who do something, and who aspire to become something. So it's contagious. It's contagious.
And that's why we're doing this. And that's how, people like you inspire us, Robin and I, and also probably, hopefully hundreds of thousands of other young change makers, right? I actually have a quick question for you too. So it sounded like, in your background that karate was one of the central themes in your life. I was really wondering, what were some of the lessons that you took away from karate? Have you been able to apply it in Flora?
Yeah, right. Yes, I think so. And I think that one of the biggest one is, sport is the same as company. Like nothing happens in one day. You can't just bring about some change because you had a nice training session in one day. It's about waking up and doing the same thing over and over every day. And I think if you have this experience early in your life, you get used to it. You don't become let down by some, let's say, failure, by some, I don't know, rejections or some small things that happen along the way. You know that it's a long journey. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Yep. So it's a really nice mindset that I'm thankful for.
Wow, very cool.
Very
cool.
That's there's a lot of athletes out there who then become entrepreneurs, and as you say, there's so many things that can translate, right? The perseverance, that, as you say, showing up every day. And I liked what you said about rejection too, right? If you lose a match, that's not the end of your career. You just have to pick yourself up and keep moving forward. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from sports and translate those experiences to the world of social entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And I want to ask you something. This is a basic question, but I'm super curious because I've seen you on interviews and on TV and various media in Japanese, and your Japanese is impeccable. It's extremely, it's fluent. I'm just curious. It's better than me as well. I'm curious, how did you learn Japanese to that extent?
Okay, so when I came to Japan, I couldn't speak. And I had to learn the language in a year because I wanted to go to the Faculty of Law next year. And there were, the biggest thing is it was a very competitive program. And to get into the faculty that you wanted to get, you had to win the competition because they have 50 people every year. And you can go to any university you want if you have the best academic record. And I really wanted to go to Kyoto University to stay in Kansai and to train at the dojo.
Wow. That was your motivation.
Well, there were some Korean people who studied Japanese language for 10 years. And I always thought that it's so unfair. But Kyoto University accepted only one person for Faculty of Law. So I did a lot of preparation for tests. And I think it helped me a lot in the first year. But for the interviews, I was never good at speaking Japanese because I always trained mostly for tests and just to pass my law exams. It's more like giving interviews was always my, something that's outside of my zone of comfort. So I would just try to, beforehand, before the interview, I'm just trying to write down some ideas that I might have, just to express it better and better. That's how I started. And it became easier and easier. So I don't know, you just put a lot of effort into it. There's no secret behind it.
Exactly.
You just work.
Exactly. すごいね. Can you become my 日本語の先生, my Japanese teacher, please?
No, definitely.
Wow. Okay. Well,
and now, kind of going back into the story of Flora. So you mentioned there was one incident, one moment that really became a key driver for you to start Flora. This is I believe it was your cousin or someone in your family had a tragic moment where they lost their baby, and that drove you to start Flora. But can you tell us a bit more about how that unfolded? Was that something immediately where you kind of identified the problem, or how did it unfold?
It wasn't immediate. It was something tragic happened, and then I started thinking about it. And it wasn't, well, if you look deeper into it, it wasn't just my cousin. I also started thinking, maybe I had some friends back in school who skipped classes because of how heavy their period symptoms were. And then I was like, actually, I remember that story when my mom suffered a lot from like infertility treatment. And I started, Googling this stuff because I was already thinking like an entrepreneur. And for me, it was like, it looked like a problem. And I was like, well, how many people suffer from this kind of issues? What kind of market is that? Are there some solutions? And I started looking up online. I got to know the word FemTech, and I was like, well, this is a huge issue, but there's the amount of innovation isn't that big. And when you look at Japan, there weren't many startups that were doing it. And that's how I was like, that's something that's worth doing. And there's an economic opportunity, there's opportunity for social impact. And then I thought of writing an application to the incubator, and I just wrote it thinking that I will never get it. And for some reason I got it, and I started to think about it more like as a business. So it was a journey. It was never just one moment.
Wow, that's amazing. I really want to sort of like dive into, your service or your product and its impact next.
Yes.
So how do you guys like create impact? I know that, one of your products or services is named like Moonly, right? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Is it Moonly? Okay, yes. Cool. But if you could tell me more about that, that'll be fantastic.
Sure. We have, all in all, we have like an ecosystem of solutions that are directed for consumers and for businesses that cover female gender-specific issues such as symptoms, period symptoms, menopause, infertility, etc., etc. For our consumer app, so it's an app that users can use. Well, ideally, we're doing it for like every stage of female life. You use it as a tracker. We try to utilize data and some new generative AI technologies to give the most, cutting edge experience. We try to personalize the experience like to every symptom and every potential disease that you might have, like endometriosis or some other condition, so that you know exactly your body and what to do with your body. That's one of the solutions. We have another solution that's targeting corporations and companies. We support women in the workplace. It's like a package. We start with some surveys and data visualizations saying that in your huge corporations, there are like this number of women that experience this kind of symptoms, issues, menopause, or they undergo fertility treatment. And as a result, there is this amount of like labor loss, or this number of people who are who cannot who experience these issues in the workplace, and they cannot be healthy and work at the same time. Then we do some webinars, we do seminars, we do some education. And finally, we have also an app that supports working women with, it's like online gynecologist, their online treatments with the doctor, same tracking functionalities, and also with maybe some goods, some packages like period pants or some goods that help you feel better. And we're doing it right now with not only like companies where they're desk workers. Right now, one of our biggest partners is Toyota. They have a lot of factories, and there are women that are working in the factories, and they're not sitting. It's a really kind of hard labor. First of all, because there are shifts, and you cannot go to toilet anytime you want to go to toilet. You have, for example, in like 3 hours, you have a 10-minute break. That's all you have. And if you have some kind of emergency, you have to raise your hand. You have to stop the whole production line. Somebody has to come, and then you can go to the toilet. So it's a really harsh industry environment. But on the other hand, Toyota is awesome in regards with improvements in productivity. And every percent of productivity improvement of every worker being healthy, it adds to the revenue. It adds to the amount of goods that are produced. So they're really interested in what we're doing, and we've been doing a big industrial POC from last year, and we were able to prove that indeed performance of workers. There are some workers that have 80% decline in performance during their period. So there's a huge labor loss that's happening. Yes, that's the second service. And the third service, we also have lots of data that we gather from workers and from women, and we help companies create new products targeting women. So it could be, for example, like aroma sticks that help alleviate symptoms of PMS, premenstrual disorders. We also had a company that produces makeup kits, and they want to do something for people who suffer from acne that comes from hormonal imbalance. And we also help them with getting results and see whether the data proves whether their product works or not. So that's the three kind of big product lines that we have.
Wow, that's super, super cool. And I think it's very timely as well, because as you know, like right now, it's super important for Japan to try to increase the female participation in its labor force, right?
Yes.
And I always thought that it was a two-way street, right? It's not just about encouraging women or telling women, hey, you got to work. Like, we have to make sure that the environment in which they work, so you mentioned factories or even corporations, are well suited for the needs of women. And I think because of Japan's culture and because of our patriarchy, a lot of environments are still not suited to the well-being of women. So I think that your product, your services is doing an amazing job in collecting the data that's necessary to tackle those issues.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, we first think that it's very important to gather data because you have to visualize it. There is a huge taboo covering this gender-specific issues in Japan. So everybody just ignores it. But when you can turn something into data can be a common language. And with data, you can talk to women, you can talk to men. There are some women who also don't experience any symptoms. So, and it's the worst case scenario because you can't prove anything to managers like that. So when we have data, you can actually see that a lot of people suffer. And there's a way to increase their well-being, to alleviate their symptoms, and it's in everybody's interest. It's in the interest of the individual, it's in the interest of the company and the country as well, because more women can work. Yes, and more women can make the choices regarding their future. So, yes.
That's amazing, Anna. But I'm sure that, especially working in Japan, I'm sure that you must have faced so many challenges along the way, right? If you could share maybe some of the challenges that you had to overcome, maybe not just you individually, but your organization as a whole, or your team. If you could share a story with us, that would be great.
Right. There are so many challenges. And because you're so positive, right? As an entrepreneur, you kind of forget it. And then you look back and you're like, well, it wasn't that bad. But it was pretty bad. I think as an entrepreneur, there were some really basic, some bureaucratic issues with, for example, getting a loan in the bank. If you're a foreign entrepreneur, the criteria is really different, and if you don't have some type of visa or some guarantors, it's kind of impossible to get money from the bank. That was huge. Apart from that, I think in the beginning, where not only nobody believes in you, you're also you're a foreigner, and everybody looks at you. They're like, "What do you understand about our country, or how can you lecture me about what kind of issues we have?" So there's this kind of moment that you have to overcome, and you also have to prove to everybody that you do care and you do understand what's going on. It's also for that same reason it's hard to hire first people. I think it was really mentally hard for me as well, because I always had this imposter syndrome, and I was like, well, who would like to work with me? And also you have to fight battles with yourself as well, because you know you're a foreigner. You know you can be stupid sometimes, and you don't know some business etiquette, or you don't have any experience in doing business in Japan. So yeah, a lot of challenges.
I just want to double click on one thing you said, Anna, which is imposter syndrome. And I feel like a lot of people, myself included, do have that feeling when we go into a meeting or we're making a pitch or something, anything really, any kind of interaction. There are moments where we do have that sense of imposter syndrome. And I'm curious for you, having been doing this for several years now.
Yes.
How do you overcome this feeling of imposter syndrome? And do you still have it? Maybe you don't have it anymore, but I'm just curious.
No, I have it. I don't know. Lately, I came to the conclusion that maybe I can't overcome it, but I just do what I do all the time. I just ignore it and continue what I do every day.
Nice.
Nice. Continue being me, but it's always here. So I don't think it ever goes away, because the challenges every year they're different, and the world is changing so fast that you're not doing everything. You're not always doing the same thing. Well, you're doing new thing every month. And when you're doing new things, of course, you don't have any confidence in yourself because you don't have experience there. And normally when you're an entrepreneur, well, there are some serial entrepreneurs, but they're rare. And normally it's your first time experience. So I think imposter syndrome will always be there for us.
But I really love what you said about optimism, right? You tend to kind of focus on the opportunity and maybe put those perhaps not so pleasant memories in, somewhere far away, and then you just focus on the positive. And I think that's also a really powerful mindset to keep moving forward, which is such a crucial skill for any entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, 100%. If you don't know what to do, just do something. I think that's my philosophy. Like I try not to stop and think about it too much.
Wow. That's actually quite deep, Instead of just being static and staying there, just do something, and by causing some sort of action will get you somewhere, right? That's actually really, really deep. Cool. Okay. Well, on the flip side, you talked about some of the challenges, but I would like to also ask about some of your successes. So maybe, what was your favorite moment in this journey so far? What was that mountain peak for you?
Okay. So I went to Vietnam last month because we're trying to expand, and we're trying to do the same service in Southeast Asia as well. And we had a POC running for half a year because we didn't really know, I don't really know a lot of stuff about Vietnam. I'm not local. I don't speak Vietnamese. And we're like, do they really need this kind of service? Maybe they have some local services as well, or maybe they don't have this kind of cultural barrier where this kind of topics is a taboo and they can talk to their management, etc. So I went there to talk with there were 15 women who participated in our POC, and I was like, okay, so what do you think about this service, and do you want this service in your companies? And everybody was like, yes, please. Can you do this? We really want you, and we want you to do. We want to use the app. And we want you to come and do a seminar inside of the company. And I remember I was like, oh my God, this is it. I feel overwhelmed. Yeah. So actually, being told that something that you do is needed and is worth it and it helps, I think it reminds me why I'm doing it.
Very cool. Just quickly for our listeners, could you explain what a POC is?
Sorry, proof of concept, like a trial. Yes.
Nice. Well, huge congratulations for that. You guys are going global now, spreading to other Asian countries. That's always very, very cool.
Yes.
Nice.
That's our biggest challenge for this year.
I see.
Try to
global
take
expansion.
it global. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, so Anna, what's your personal why? Like, what gets you up in the morning and allows you to do the amazing work that you do? Like, what drives you?
Okay, so I think I think depending on which day you ask me, probably the reason will change.
Thanks for being honest. Yeah.
But I think that first of all, I really don't imagine myself doing anything else. Like, I really can't see myself, I don't know, working in like insurance company or like in a bank or something. I will quit in a week or so. Like, it's not for me. So it's always like, I don't have a choice. If I'm not doing this, then what am I doing? I don't know what am I doing. So it's like something that, you know, you have maybe inside of you. It's like, I have to do it. It's the way it is for me. That's one of the biggest reasons. And then there are negative experiences, that there are rejections, maybe some conflicts with coworkers, etc. But for me, net is positive. Like, I get to meet really cool people. I get to create stuff, and I like creating something, but not just like creating for the sake of the creation, but creating and like bringing it into practice, or like trying to bring something new into the world and change it in a way. So I like something practical. So I just enjoy it most of the time. Of course, there are things that I don't like. There are lots of bureaucracies, and maybe I have to talk to some people that I don't like, and to do some stuff that I don't like, and, you know, like look at Excel and try to figure out what that cell means or something. And I'm so bad at it. But like, all in all, in the end, it's a really net positive for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Anna, you've been doing this for several years now, and you must have grown in so many ways building this organization. And if you had to reflect on your personal growth during this journey with Flora, what would you say were some key growth areas or things that you've learned along the way?
Yes, I think one of the biggest thing that I've learned is that everything comes down to people. Your product, even if it's a product, still, like, product is 10% of your success, and people that surround you, so people who are on your team, people who are your clients, people who are your partners, your advisors, your investors, everything is up to people. And if you make mistakes, like crucial mistakes in choosing those people, that might be the end of you and your company. But on the other hand, if this circle grows and your team expands, like, this is how growth looks like. And at the beginning, I thought that I just do some cool product, everybody will be using it, and I'll be, I don't know, rich and famous, and that's how it works. But you cannot grow a company, grow an organization on your own. It's always who are there together with you in the same boat. So I think that was one of the biggest lessons, that I am no one on my own. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about your approach to building a team. I believe you met your co-founder in Japan, if I'm correct,
Yes.
and you began building the tech side of, or you started building Flora in general. But do you have any specific kind of approach to building the right team? How do you make those people come together? How do you attract the right people, keep them happy and keep them motivated?
Yeah. Well, I wish I knew the 100% correct answer to all of those questions because I still definitely make mistakes. We still definitely hire somebody who ends up quitting or ends up not really being part of the team. But in general, I think your co-founder is super important, and the next like 1 or 2 hires. If you do that right, you will succeed. If you do that wrong, probably nothing will happen. Nothing will come out of it. I don't know. I think with my co-founder, I'm just lucky. Like, I don't know. I have no word for it. But it's also about, it comes down to being proactive. It comes down to, well, I met this person and he's majoring in biomedical engineering. And I was like, well, you're studying human's body and you have experience in this and this. I want to do this. And here are the reasons I want to do it. Why don't you do it with me together? So you have to have a clear vision, because if you don't have a clear vision, nobody will be persuaded. But you also have to explain what's in there for them and how they can grow together with you. Yes. So, and I still think that is how it works now. Of course, we have an interview, but a huge part of the hiring process is the trial for like 2 weeks or maybe a month, where we actually work together. And then, because I stopped believing in recruitment interviews because I've met so many people who are so good at them, and then nothing happens. So I was like, okay, I don't know what to ask. Let's just work together for 2 weeks or like for 3 weeks or months, and we will pay you. Like, it's okay. We'll just work together, and then we decide.
That's right.
So the trial period is key.
Yes. Yep. So for me, it's working together and understanding, can I work with this person? And do I think this person, do I learn something from this person? Because I don't remember who said it. Somebody told me that when you're a CEO of small enterprise like Chushokigyo, you hire people and you educate them for them to grow. But when you're a CEO of venture who needs to to expand really rapidly, you hire people who are smarter than you and who know more than you, and you learn from them. So I try to hire people who are smarter than me, for sure.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
And just to have a quick comment on your co-founder.
Yes.
I mean, I was looking through your company website, and I noticed that you guys have a really pretty website page, and there was a team section. Am I correct in sort of assuming that you guys really complement each other's skill sets? Like, I noticed that he had a very tech focused background, right? While as you were more of like a generalist in a way. So is it true that when it comes to startups or maybe just social enterprises, it's important for the team members to have really complementary skill sets?
Yeah, 100%. And I think not only skill set, but like emotional state. Because for me, I can have lots of ideas and I can lose focus. And I'm really my emotional state can change really rapidly. And as for my co-founder, his name is Ivan, he's like very stable emotionally, Wow. And a person who can get really focused. So for me, I get a lot of stability from him. And I think for him, he gets some new ideas or some creativity from me. And one of the most important points is that our ups and downs are never at the same time. So when I'm down, he's always like, "No, we can do it. I know the way out of it." And when he has that, period of depression,
right.
Believe me, it will be okay.
Very cool.
And I think it might be even more important than the skill set, because if both of you are down at the same time, there's no way out of it. Yeah. I think that might be the biggest role of a co-founder, but I don't know. Maybe it's not for everybody.
Very cool.
And I like that you have to have the yin and the yang, right? You have to balance each other out, not just in skill sets and experience, but also in ups and downs, as you put it. And this kind of links to something you said earlier, which was some days you have a tough time, right? You're looking at Excel sheets and they're complicated and you're talking to people you don't want to talk to. And it reminds me of this. Have you seen this graph? It's like a day in the life of an entrepreneur, where it starts like, yeah, we're on a mission. And it's like, oh no, I'm going to go bankrupt. Then, you're up and down every single day. But when you face those times of uncertainty, of anxiety and so on, how do you maintain self-care? How do you make sure that you're looking after your mental health, physical health, spiritual health during these times?
Yeah, that's tough. But that's super important, because startup is a marathon and not a sprint. And I always remind myself of it, because in the beginning I had this sprint mindset that would burn me out a lot, and I had to calm down a bit, and come to the realization that big things take time. And the biggest thing is having a co-founder and having a team to keep you sane. Apart from that, taking your health as something that's like important on a corporate level. It's like when you're down, the company's down. What is the loss of it? What is the potential risks of it? And you estimate this, and then you understand that your health is not only your personal responsibility, but your responsibility towards the whole team. So that is also really important. And for me, it's like, I like Kyoto because of it, because I can just go down to Kamogawa, take a walk, enjoy the river. I really don't like skyscrapers in Tokyo, and I don't like the number of people. So I get really stressed by it. So I like countryside a lot. I like Kamogawa. I like going to the north of Kyoto, where there are mountains. That helps. Sport helps. Hobbies help. So I think everybody should have their own kind of this comfortable space, comfort zone or something, but taking health as a priority. And not because you're selfish or egoistical, but because if the company is at this stage where they can't work without you, then it's your responsibility to look after your own health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So your health, your mental well-being, everything is not just about your personal issue. It's actually an organizational issue, because you are leading the organization. So I love that, taking it really seriously to ensure great performance and satisfaction as well. And actually, it reminds me, your story connects with some other stories I hear from social entrepreneurs, which is in the beginning, there's a great sense of urgency. Like we're gonna keep going, we're gonna sprint 100 miles an hour. And eventually you kind of hit this wall, or you realize, I can't keep sprinting this quickly for the next 5 years, 10 years. And it sounds like you've had this realization where you're now stepping back a little bit, or not stepping back, but you're also able to prioritize your well-being and so on. But do you think that happens with entrepreneurs around you as well? Or have you noticed any patterns around you? I'd be curious.
I was actually speaking to one of the Japanese guys like 2 weeks ago. So he tried to do a startup in San Francisco in the 90s. And he's now doing like, he's an advisor to lots of Japanese startups and lots of startups. And he told me that, the most important thing is your health. And your resilience. The rest you can figure it out. You have enough time. You're not smart enough. You have enough time. You'll figure it out. You'll health. You'll figure it out. There are so many people who burn out and quit, and fail just because they're not able to bear it mentally and physically. So exactly as you said, like I think the number is, I don't know whether there are statistical numbers, but I'm pretty sure that it's a huge percentage of people.
I'd love to speak more about this well-being part, because this is such a huge issue with social entrepreneurs, especially who are super mission-driven and everything. But I hope we can dig into that another time. I'd love to explore thinking from the perspective of someone who is maybe on the beginning of their journey, starting a new organization or a new startup, focusing on social issues. What would be some advice you would give them from your own experience? You've already shared many things like the importance of people and things take time and so on, but what other advice would you give, if any?
I am a huge believer in action, and I think planning to do a startup is wrong. You either do it or don't. You either start and that's already a startup and that's what you're doing, or you're never starting it. So if you have some idea, just do it. Start a newsletter, write a blog, I don't know, just post it on your social media, apply to some incubator, just do something. And this action produces information, and that's how you learn, by doing. So when you don't know what to do, try to gather as much information as possible, talk to as many people as possible, and just participate in as many events as possible, and that's how you figure it out. I think that's something that helped me to never actually stop and be like, well, I don't know what to do. I think that's the end. Yeah.
That's awesome. That reminds me of saying that an entrepreneur said, which was something like, the best strategy is to pick a general direction and then implement like heck. So basically just keep picking a direction, just keep moving forward, because eventually you'll get somewhere. And I think that your mentality reminds me of that saying.
And that's why you need your health, and that's why you need your resilience, because if you don't have good health, you cannot continue this journey for long. But you need it, because no matter how smart I think it's luck, like finding this product market fit or finding something that's really necessary. Partially it's because you talk to the right users, talk to the right people, but partially because for some reason you're lucky to find those right users. And I think that luck comes to everybody's life. You just have to, be there for it to help you and do something. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for that reminder, Anna. I mean, part of the reason why I'm here in Bangkok, Thailand today is because I personally got burnt out towards the end of last year, because I didn't take good care of my mental, my physical, my spiritual health. So it's a super, super important lesson that you raise. And I really hope that nobody else has to go through burnout. Yeah. Okay, so as we sort of near the end of this podcast, unfortunately, Tier, I do want to ask though, what's next on the horizon for you? Like any exciting news that you want to share with our listeners? Like it can be personal, it can be about Flora, but if you could share some exciting news, that'd be great.
Exciting news. I don't know. This whole year for me is like super exciting, because
Nice.
we're scaling in Japan. Like we found some like definite solution that works. We're scaling in Japan, and at the same time
Cool.
we're going to Southeast Asia. And I'm super excited to work in Vietnam, and I want to work in Thailand. I want to work in India, and I'm just like really excited about that. I think it's like kind of different level of excitement when it's not only like one country that's using your product, but some people whose language you don't even know, but you're helping them in some way. So, yeah.
That's super, super exciting. I'm excited for you. And,
Thank you.
as you know, Robin and I are both part of the One Young World Network, and we're connected with, thousands of amazing change makers all over the world. So as you expand in these countries, feel free to always reach out to us, and we'll help connect you to people who we are connected to. So last but not least from my side, if you could maybe kindly remind our listeners where they can follow your journey and support your work, that would be great.
Yes, they can look us up on floratech.jp. They can find me on Facebook. In Japan, we use Facebook as a work tool for some reason, or on LinkedIn as well. Would be really happy to talk to anyone.
Nice. Well, okay. Well, thank you so much, Anna. Arigatou gozaimasu. How do I say thank you in Ukrainian?
You can say spasiba.
Spasiba. Well, spasiba yes. From the bottom of my heart. That was an amazing 16 minutes that we were able to spend together.
Really?
Yes. Oh, of course. And I learned so much from you. Everything from being able to, the importance of taking care of yourself, to how, running a startup is a marathon, right? It's not a race. You brought up some really important points about how there are a lot of overlaps between sports and companies as well. A lot of insights for me, Robin, and also our listeners to take away. So I really want to thank you. But what about you, Robin? What were some of your takeaways?
I'm just, again, super happy to speak to Anna. I've been so fascinated by your journey over the past years, and I cannot wait for the day where we see Flora all over the world, helping women and improving healthcare everywhere. So I'm super excited to see what's coming up for you. And for me, I think everything you mentioned, Yoshi, as well, but also the emphasis on action, right? Don't spend too much time planning, just take action, right. And eventually things will take an interesting turn for the better. So I found this conversation super interesting. I'm also really fascinated by the future of FemTech and everything happening in this industry, which is, again, a very innovative and fast moving space. So I hope, Anna, that we can speak again soon, and we are cheering for you from Japan and from Bangkok as well.
Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. So, okay, go ahead, Robin.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. Well, so remember, coffee friends, the power to create change is in your hands. So keep leading the way, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Let's keep brewing change, one cup of coffee at a time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.